Hello and welcome to another episode of Average Glow. My name is Holly Rose. I imagine many of you are new viewers today that are here for this particular episode. So, welcome. I'm so happy you are here to join us. Today, I am talking all about my breast reduction surgery. Yes, I had a breast reduction. This is kind of rage bait to a lot of people, I will admit, and I will be getting into that in a moment. But I'm going to be covering all of the details you need. So I will be talking about the reasons that I wanted the surgery to begin with, kind of the process of what it took to get there. So getting the consultation, all of the prep work it took to prep my house to be ready for this, and the payments, all of my fears and nerves kind of going into the day of surgery, how the surgery went itself, and then how recovery is going. And then at the end of the episode, I am going to do kind of like a little reveal for you of what they look like now. Right now, I am very compressed in a very Sorry, I don't have the microphone in front of me. I am very compressed in a very large sports bra. It is like a tactical vest. It is huge, and I have to wear this for 6 weeks. I will be getting into that in a moment as well. That is just part of the process. So I will come on and kind of do a little bit of a reveal in a different outfit for you just for that moment. So you do not want to miss that. But I do just want to start this episode by saying this is truly supposed to be an educational episode, okay? Everything I'm going to discuss is for educational purposes, for you to make your own decisions. If you are interested in this surgery, maybe you're deciding whether it's worth it for you or not. I am not here to make that decision for you. So I am just going to give you the information. Do not let me persuade you either way. But I am excited and happy about how my surgery went and what the results are. So that might be a little bit of the tone. But again, this is purely educational. So please do with that information what you will. So let's get started and let's get into it. I do just want to say for you that are new listening to this podcast, I'm so happy that you're here. I am a newer podcast host. I am just getting into it. I'm a few months deep now. So any support that you can show me, if you could please subscribe while you're on the channel, or try to come back frequently and comment, leave a review. I would really appreciate that. It's going to help my channel grow. If you are not new here and you know the deal, then this is all a little bit repetitive to you, but just want to say at the top of the episode to get this out of the way, if you haven't already, go follow me on my socials on TikTok and Instagram. It's at Average Glow Podcast. I will put all the information on the bottom of the screen if you're watching. And if you're just listening, I will put that in the show notes as well. But please go follow me on those, especially Instagram. I am going crazy with content for this. That's maybe how some of you found me anyway. But I want to just be as informative as I can. This entire experience of my surgery is kind of part of my whole vibe of my podcast. My podcast is about reinventing your life and becoming the best elevated versions of yourself. I do not always suggest that surgery is the answer, but in my particular situation, I've discussed in the past that, surgery felt the most right for me. So let's just dive into it, because that is one of the first things I want to discuss. I want to get into what are my reasons for wanting to have this surgery. So this is a big question, right? What were my reasons for having the surgery? I have many for you, and let me list them. The craziest thing about having this surgery is having to explain to people like why I wanted to do it, because depending on who you're telling, it upsets some people for no reason. You tell men, oh yeah, I'm having a breast reduction. Why would you want to do that? Why would you want to destroy what God has blessed you with? Okay, get lost. I've heard it. I've been there. it's, it's, I'm not offended by that. It's just a statement, right? A manly statement. But I also have experienced this with women that I've spoken to who maybe have had smaller chests their whole lives. Why would you want a breast reduction? And the simple answer is I had a large chest for 20 years of my life. Okay. I am 35 years old. They developed, I would say, around 15. And I also nursed my daughter for 2.5 very long years. So they didn't quite look the way they used to. Okay. They used to be pretty attention grabbing. I think they still were, but a little lower. Okay. Gravity kind of took over on that one. And so, yeah, they didn't look the way they used to. And I have so many reasons beyond that. That sounds just purely vanity. For me, as I mentioned, I was in this whole new process and phase of up-leveling my life. And part of that process at the beginning was kind of defining, what does it look like? What does my future version of me look like? And I just want to cut to a free promo for my series here is if you are new here, I did just finish a 4-part series called the Becoming Her series, where I broke down into 4 phases, how to elevate your life and how to become that dream version of yourself. So do go check that out if that is something you're interested in. But the reason I'm bringing that up is part of phase 1 for that series was defining her. So in my defining phase in my real life before even creating a podcast, I questioned myself of what does that future version of me look like? And to me, it was I'm so trim and strong and lean. And I've always been into fitness and physical health. I have a degree in exercise and wellness. So I'm very interested in that. I used to be a personal trainer and a certified strength and conditioning specialist. So I have all of the knowledge and the background of a trainer, but I couldn't really get the results I'm wanting. I mean, your chest, itself is not something you can work out, right? And so even in my leanest moments and my bigger moments, I just had this large chest that kind of broke out my proportions. It was like so eye catching and attention drawing. And that's not how I wanted to be in this new version of myself. I wanted to just look fit and almost, it's weird to say, I almost wanted to blend in. I want to be kind of recognized for my personality and my, appearance overall, not like, oh, that girl's got a huge chest. That's like, kind of tacky for me. I had had that kind of experience and attention all through my 20s. And, it's crazy to say this is a little deep of a reason here, but when I was 15 and I did start to develop, I started getting a lot of attention from older men and I hated it. It made me develop this like really weird breaking of eye contact with any adult. Like even now, if I'm having a conversation with someone, I'll kind of like look away. If I'm walking past a stranger, I just pretend I don't notice where they're looking because almost always their gaze was like straight to my chest. And it's awkward, especially at 15 years old. It's gross. And so that's part of the reason. Another part is my mom had the same exact surgery when she was about my age. And so that was just kind of a norm to me. I was like, okay, genetically makes sense. That's probably in my future. So a breast reduction surgery has always felt kind of comfortable and normal to me. As I mentioned, I don't think any surgery is the answer to everything. But this particular surgery is kind of the only one I've had in mind pretty much my whole life. And so that was kind of a reason why I wanted to get this. Another one, which I think a lot of women that are listening to this will relate to, is it is so hard to fit into cute clothing. Like the cutest of clothes are the ones that have like a little built in sewing or bra or just maybe a little tighter fitting. And I mean, with a naturally large chest, you are pouring out of it. I really want to look so cute and fit in like a tiny little sports bra and legging set or like spandex set. And those kinds of clothes are not made for women with large chests. They're just not because they're made for very petite, slender girls, or they're made for women who have had implants put in so that their chest, stays in place, right? So that's not me. Mine were not fitting in any clothing the way that I wanted them to. So that was another huge reason. That might be one of the big reasons that you are here listening. Again, 20 years of having these girls, all right, they were not where they used to be. I posted a lot of videos on social media that I recorded before my surgery without a bra on so that you could see kind of where they would sit. And so if you haven't, again, follow me on Instagram, Average Glow Podcast. But, you know, they were low. Okay. My daughter, bless her heart, she's 3. And, toddlers will read you to filth. She goes, your boobies are so long. It's like, oh, thanks. These pillows that you have been enjoying that gave you nutrients for the first 2.5 years of your life are long because of you, my dear. But you know how toddlers are. You can't let them bully you, okay? Got to show them who's boss. So anyway, I mean, those were some of my reasons. I will admit I probably have had some back pain from it. Nothing so serious that I've been seeing a chiropractor for. I did used to do that actually. I used to work at a physical therapy clinic and I would have them work on me when I was in my 20s. I haven't really sought any help for that in the last 10 years. I'm hoping, though, now that I've had the surgery, that my back just kind of generally feels better. I think it just became a norm to me to be like always in a little bit of pain in my like thoracic spine. So it is what it is. But really, just overall, as I mentioned, I wanted to manifest this dream body of mine. And the reason for that is just I want to feel so confident. Confidence is what I highly promote on this podcast. It's what I promote on all my socials. I just want to build the confidence of other women. And the way to do that would be to be the most confident version of myself. And since promoting this entirely, and not just about the surgery, but since promoting confidence in other women, it has made me so much more confident. And my mind has been so elevated and growing. And every single day, it feels like I am just getting onto this totally new level. But that's all in my mind, and I just physically needed it to match, and I had, like, quantum leaped in my head almost so much that I would be walking around confidently, catch a glimpse of myself in the mirror, and be like, "Ugh, that's right, like, my chest looks like this." So, it was holding me back a little bit. I guess I was being insecure about it, I don't really like to use that word, to be honest. I do have insecurities, of course. I think everyone does, but that is something that I, very actively like to work through and work on. And so I am generally pretty confident at this point. But this was just a physical attribute that I knew I could change, and so I went for it. I have never had surgery, and I went for it. So let's get into how that process started. The first step, of course, was to go get a consultation. Now, many people typically would do a consultation through a couple of different surgeons. I found the surgeon I used, which I am going to fully plug his information here. Okay. I want to give him all of the props where props are due. So I live in Arizona, so this surgeon, his name is Dr. Bradley Becker. I will put his information on the screen and in the show notes again if you are listening. His name is Dr. Bradley Becker, and he is located in Arizona. So whether you live close or nearby, or even want to take a staycation, maybe for 2 weeks to come visit him, highly, highly recommend. I could not say enough amazing things about him and will continue, I'm sure, throughout the episode. But he did an amazing job, and he was my first consultation that I went to. And the reason I actually found him to begin with was on TikTok, crazily enough. Somebody posted, if you're in the West Valley in Arizona, what plastic surgeons do you suggest? Someone commented his name. I looked him up and just kind of like locked in his name. This is probably a year ago, honestly. And so he was the first person I went to for a consultation, and I went in. He made me feel so insanely comfortable about the entire process. He also really like kind of boosted me up to be like, you're going to look great when you leave after the surgery, And I was like, okay, that sounds good. And his whole entire staff was so welcoming, so nice, so helpful. So I didn't even go and get another consultation at any other doctors. I was like, this is it. This is my guy. We're going to go here. It's not too far from my house to begin with. It's not too much of a trek. So I went with him. And again, could not say enough great things. He was wonderful. So do go check him out, please, if you are considering the surgery. I, again, highly recommend. Now, I entered this consultation with really kind of no background, but what I wanted to know out of it, of course, how much would it cost, right? Also, though, what was the recovery really going to be like? You know, you're probably here because you can Google breast reduction surgery all you want, but you want to know the emotions behind it, how to bring it into your reality, right? Not just what does Google say are the processes. You're like, wait, how do I apply that to my life? Is that going to affect me in a way I can't handle? And so I went in there with some of my concerns, which were I am a single mom, so I do not have any other adults living with me in the house. As I mentioned, I have a 3-year-old daughter. So how is that going to be without being able to lift her up? How long will I not be able to lift her or to hug her or to take care of her in that way? And what was the process going to be like? Maybe I can get some family members to come help me. So I needed to go in for that consultation just to like make it a reality. And I would suggest when you go for your consultation, have a list of questions ready. I kind of didn't, I'll be honest. I didn't really have much. I wasn't like sure even what to expect. So I went in and was just like, let's go see what happens. And like I said, he provided me with so much comfort. They sent me a quote later that afternoon. And then at that point, it was up to me to kind of figure out the logistics. As I mentioned, I didn't really go in there with questions. So what's kind of funny is I went in maybe, I want to say like October or November of 2025. I just had the surgery. This is June 2026. And I knew that if I was going to get my parents involved, it would need to be in the summertime because they are teachers. And my mom, if she were going to come and help me to not have to ask off time from work, it would be in the summer. So I knew I was doing this kind of pre-work ahead of time. And that actually worked out in my favor because we originally in the consultation discussed getting just a breast lift. And if you have done any research, you probably know that there is a difference between the two. The main difference is the procedure it actually takes for the surgeon to make the cuts, and he kind of cuts them a little differently. To my understanding, that's what he showed me. The cost is a little bit different as well. And then ultimately, the reason that I went from deciding to have a breast lift to an actual full reduction is the size that they're able to go to when it's just a lift. So if you have a large chest that has just become very low, you can get it lifted up nice and perky, and sure enough, like you're going to be feeling good again. But for me, after these 6 to 8 months, I had to think about it. I really ultimately decided I was like, I don't even want to be a big chested girl anymore, as I mentioned in my reasonings before, right? So that kind of makes sense and is in line with what I've been saying. But I was like, I just want it to be proportional with my body and not be the reason people are drawn to me or, I'm getting their attention. So I went in for a second consultation. now with more questions, much closer to actually being ready to book the surgery and make the appointment, set the date, and pay the initial deposit that they ask for. And I went in and I had that conversation with Dr. Becker again as well. And, he and I really discussed like the reality of like, what size do you really want to go to? And he kind of almost talked me out of the full reduction. He's like, it would be smaller with the lift. And I was like, no, doc, I want to go all the way. Let's go small. And he's like, okay. And I will say the weeks after I put down the full deposit, I was like, what am I thinking? What am I thinking? Oh my God, I think I did the wrong thing. I think I want to just do the lift. And it wasn't because of the money. I just was like in my head about the size. I was like, oh, he's going to go so small. And I just got to say, I am so insanely happy with the size he went with. He is a true professional, right? And I think he was looking out for me to be like, you want this to be proportional, right? Like, you want them to look good. And I do think they look good, but they don't look huge, which is great. He nailed it. Let's just say that. He nailed it. So I'm very happy about that. But I want to go into next what some of my fears and anxieties and nerves were going into it. I think this is going to relate to a lot of you out there that are considering the surgery or maybe wanting the surgery. This is going to be the kind of make or break for you of if you're considering the same thing and having the same thoughts and feelings. Maybe this will kind of make your decision on which way you want to go towards. Again, my opinion is just my own opinion. Please do not base your decisions on me. This is just meant to be informative. But some of the nerves that I had going into the surgery, let's start with I have never had surgery before. So I had a lot of nerves about surgery in general. I have only gotten my wisdom teeth pulled out. That was kind of the major thing I've gotten in my life. So the thought of going under anesthesia without knowing, like, am I allergic to it? How am I going to react to it? That honestly really freaked me out. Like I said, I'm a single mom. I have a daughter. And so if anything were to happen to me in this surgery that I have elected to do, I have chosen, like, yes, I want this cosmetic surgery done to me, and then something tragic happened to me because of it. I got so nervous and scared about that. I will just say that. I am a believer in God and I have faith. And so that kind of helped calm me down a lot of, if I wasn't meant to have this surgery, God would have put a halt to it and would have stopped me from having it, at some point in the entire process of the 6 to 8 months waiting to have it. So that did provide me with some comfort, if that provides you with comfort as well. The other thing that provided me with comfort was part of the entire process was going to see my physician to get cleared to have surgery. And in that appointment, he's like, you're healthy. You got a good, clean bill of health. He's like, how is your cardiovascular health going? And I was like, I just ran a 5K last week. He's like, you're good. So for me personally, I am generally very healthy. If you do not feel like you are healthy or you have some issues, part of the process is seeing your physician, but even go ahead and go see that physician before you even make commitments with the initial deposit and the, rest of the remaining deposit, because that's going to be a huge, huge factor. So, like I said, I was nervous about the anesthesia. And the day of surgery, the anesthesiologist came in and she was like, hey, I'm your anesthesiologist. And I was like, okay, you're my girl. You're going to be helping me and making sure I'm okay, right? And she's like, I will be monitoring you the whole time. You'll be fine. So that kind of relieved me in that instant. This episode of Average Glow is sponsored by Areola Artistry. If you or someone you know has undergone mastectomy, breast reconstruction, or has visible scars that they'd like to minimize, Areola Artistry specializes in realistic 3D tattooing and scar camouflage to help you restore your confidence after surgery. They also offer permanent makeup services like brows, lips, and eyeliner. I know the owner of this business personally, and she is just such a rock star. She's so inspiring. She built this entire business to help uplift women and build their confidence back. And here at Average Glow, that is what I highly, highly promote. So please go support her and check her out. She is currently offering a special discount to Average Glow listeners. If you use the code GLOW or mention the podcast when checking out, she's offering $300 off of 3D areola tattooing or $100 off of her permanent makeup services. To learn more or schedule your consultation, contact Dana directly at 602-309-3763 and go follow her on Instagram. It's at Areola Artistry _. I have all of the information on the screen. I'm also putting them in the show notes for you. So please go check her out. Thank you, Areola Artistry, for sponsoring this podcast episode. And without further ado, let's get back into it. Now, going into making the payment, that made me very nervous. Now, I haven't mentioned, and I will not mention, what the full total cost of this whole surgery was. If that is something you're interested in, you can DM me. I'm willing to have a conversation with you and give you a ballpark, but I just don't think it's my place to say to give you an idea of how much it would cost for you. I think you do need to do that initial free consultation to get that estimate because prices change. I don't want you to get your hopes up if mine's low or whatever the case may be. It's just kind of not my business. It's not really kosher to talk about money on this kind of platform, especially say you're seeing this 10, 20 years from now. I imagine the price is going to be way up or way down. Who knows? But anyway, you can DM me or email me. My email is averageglowpodcast@gmail.com. Go ahead and send me a DM or email. That'd be great. I'm happy to talk to you. If you have any extra questions as well, I'm certainly available to answer those. But anyway, back to what I was saying. So the deposit and the payment itself made me very nervous. Okay. Now you make the initial deposit. I believe it was $1,000. I will say that. $1,000 just to hold the spot for the surgery date. And that goes towards your entire deposit. So you're not losing that money at all. It's just holding your place. And so I was nervous to put down the initial deposit. And the reason for that is I had a lot of moving factors for this surgery because I booked it so far out, months in advance. So many things could change. I could get sick. I could change my mind. My family who was coming into town to help me, they maybe could not be available. Baby daddy, my daughter's father, was going to take my daughter for the weekend so that I can just be like fully kid free all weekend. He could change his mind. He could become busy. He could become sick. So there were so many factors outside of my control. So that gave me a lot of anxiety. I don't like just throwing money away. But I made that deposit and then I believe so it was 21 days before the surgery was when the rest of the deposit was due. Now this is for the remaining balance. There are credit options out there where you could pay it all on a credit card and now pay that over time, but they needed the remaining balance at that point 21 days prior to surgery. So that made me extremely nervous. It was like, okay, well, this is real and I'm not getting my money back. This is a humongous chunk of money to be putting down and to lose potentially again for those exact same factors. Luckily, it all worked out. You just have to kind of maybe disassociate a little and, and not be so in your head about it if you're kind of a stressor and anxiety ridden person like me. So you just kind of have to, take some deep breaths. It's going to work out for you. And, say some positive affirmations. I always promote that on this podcast. So I was, of course, saying those to myself all the time during this process. Another thing I was kind of nervous about going into it is I knew I needed to do it during the summer. Again, I said my mom's a teacher, so she was coming out for the summer. Was that I was afraid I was going to get a little bit of FOMO, fear of missing out, right? Of all of the people who get to go swimming in Arizona. I do not get to swim for 6 weeks. I'm not allowed to fully submerge into any body of water. So bathtub, jacuzzi, hot tub, whatever, pool. So I was afraid I was going to miss out on that. But I did flip my mindset a little bit to be like, you know what? 6 weeks of hibernation, 6 weeks of AC in the summertime, and I'm going to lock in on my diet, lock in on my hydration, really kind of keep to myself. And I have been able to do that. So, one thing that may resonate with some of you, if you are a mom who has some young children at home and you're considering the surgery, one thing that made me the absolute most nervous was how my daughter was going to handle the surgery. So, how was I going to lift her? How was I going to hug her? Oh, that was the most triggering for me. The thought of not being able to give her my affection and help her the way that she probably needed and or just wanted, right? That really got in my head a lot. And I had seen some things that said, around 4 years old is probably a good age to consider. She's almost 4. She'll be 4 soon. So I was like, it's kind of close enough. And I kind of took that chance. So I do want to say, the days leading up to the surgery, like the day of, where I was like, okay, I'm not going to see this girl until after my surgery, that was pretty devastating for me. I was an emotional wreck the rest of the day leading up to the surgery. So I want to give you kind of a pre warning about that. But what I will say, when I was finally reconnected with my daughter, it was actually great. I was able to kind of like give her a side hug, a little bit more of shoulder. I'd been warning her for months, like, hey, mommy's going to be a little bit out of commission. She's not going to be able to hold you and pick you up and do the things you're used to. So if you ever just crave a hug from her, I told her, like, give my leg the biggest squeeze of your life. And, your grandma's going to be here. You can hug her if you're missing hugs. So that kind of helped me through it. But that truly was my biggest concern, was just like, how is it going to be being a mom and still functioning and having the surgery? But I will say, rest assured, I have been doing mostly great. I haven't had too many complaints. So let's keep going. I want to get into now, like, all of the prep work I did for the surgery. So some of the things I purchased ahead of time, and I can't remember if these were all suggestions from my surgeon themselves or maybe some videos I saw on Instagram. First of all, they did absolutely suggest, they gave me a list of 3 heavy duty sports bras, as I mentioned earlier. This cute, almost to my collarbone, almost to my stomach, full tactical vest of a sports bra. It's just fully trapping me and sucking me in. They gave 3 suggestions. I picked their top rated one. It has a zipper and 2 clasps in the front. It has 2 clasps in the back, pretty similar to a normal bra, but 2 straps, so top and bottom. And then it has Velcro adjustable straps to kind of get you as tight as you need to be. And this is a bra, like I said, I will be living in for the next 6 weeks for up to 6 months, is what I was told. So it's a big adjustment and it is a big commitment. So I want to prepare you for that. I obviously want to be the most safe and have the best results at the end. So I am going to try to wear this bra a minimum of 6 weeks, of course, but as regularly as I can after that. I mean, we'll see. I'm only 2 weeks deep here, so I may be over it by then, especially sleeping in this. It is not comfortable, but it is what it is. You got to do what you got to do to look good, right? So that is one of the suggestions. They said to buy ahead of time. Particularly, they said buy one in the current size that I would have been fitting in prior to surgery, buy one a size smaller. And I did that, and I've since bought a second additional of the smaller size. So now I just switch back and forth. Right now, I'm currently wearing a medium. And the reason for the medium, depending on even the size of the chest that you go to, is I generally am always wearing a medium. My rib cage, my shoulders, right? Everything's still a medium. So mediums fit me nice and snug if you're curious about that in particular. And then the other thing I purchased was a wedge pillow. And the reason for that is you are going to need to lay on your back and sleep on your back for, gosh, I think at least 6 weeks. Everything in my mind is at least 6 weeks, and it could be longer. I would maybe research that one. But I bought a wedge pillow from Amazon, and it comes with like a little pillow on top of it for your neck. Super comfortable, I will say. I'll put like a shirt on one side or like a stuffed animal on another so that I can kind of go back and forth in the middle of the night. But I have never been a back sleeper in my life, and I've been sleeping great. So I cannot complain about that wedge pillow. I'll maybe put the link in the description if you need. But actually, you know what? Just DM me if you want to know what that is. You can also just type in wedge pillow in Amazon, and like the most basic of ones will pop up for you. So go check that out. The other thing that I purchased a lot of were these like full button shirts. Now, I do not think that that's necessary. I don't even think my surgeon suggested that. I think that I just picked that up from Instagram. So I really don't suggest wasting your money on that. If you have a lot of loose t-shirts, a loose t-shirt will be totally fine. Maybe one button-down shirt for day of surgery, just so that like the nurses can get you dressed easier. But truly, I have been able to like slide something over my head, no problem, and slide my arms through the sleeves, especially on a loose t-shirt. I purchased honestly maybe 4 or 5 different button downs. I mean, that's like literally why I'm wearing this today, is just to get my money's worth. I haven't even worn this like cute set yet. It comes with shorts. I was like, oh, that's fun. And have had no need to wear it. It's hot. It's Arizona, right? I'm not even leaving my house. So whatever. I wouldn't suggest wasting your money on that. That is my personal opinion. Of course, if you want the cute outfits and the cute button-down shirts, go for it. I mean, personally, as someone who had a large chest, I owned no button-down shirts because, if you have one as well, is like you would button it and it would be so tight here that you would like see through the holes between the buttons. So you probably don't already own some. So I just want to save you some money on that. Another thing I purchased, which hasn't been necessary to be honest, but were some back scratchers on Amazon. I saw that on a reel on Instagram as well. It's not a horrible idea to kind of reach back there. My back is beyond itchy in this sports bra and in the heat of Arizona anytime I step outside, but I can kind of reach back there. I guess you're really not supposed to. The idea is that for post recovery is your elbows need to remain at your side, kind of like T-Rex arms, if you will. So I can only reach at this height, and I'm kind of limited in that way. I'm not supposed to be reaching up over my head. I'm not supposed to be bending down and getting things. So that's just kind of the idea. And so the other thing that you need to do to prep for your surgery is I put a lot of things that are going to be necessities for me in the future for the next few months at waist level. So think about it. All of your clothing, if it hangs on a high hanger, I moved those to maybe the lower hanger if you have that option, or maybe fold your clothes now and keep them in a drawer, something like that. You have to kind of keep that in mind. I took all of the things I needed out of my medicine cabinet, put them on my bathroom counter in a basket just so that they were nice and easy. Also moved like my laundry detergent down, which laundry really isn't suggested to do in these first few weeks, but just in case I moved it lower. all the water bottles and necessities I needed in my fridge. I've moved now to a lower spot. So just kind of look through your house and keep in mind what's something that you like usually would have to reach for and bring it a little bit lower to you. Another thing to consider is you are not supposed to push or pull heavy doors after surgery for about up to 6 weeks. So think of what doors you have in your house or you're going to come into acquaintance with. But the other thing I thought of was that my drawers, like in my bathroom, are a soft close. So they're kind of have like a little bit of a pull to them to pull them out. That's something where I have been careful. I've been able to do it, but I just use both hands and kind of slowly like bend down to the level of it to pull it. So that's just another thing. If you want to move everything to your waist level already, kind of pull things out of drawers that you can avoid having to open those later as well. All right, so let's get into the surgery itself. Okay, so day of, I had a 6:30 appointment time for arrival with an 8 a.m. scheduled surgery time. So I got to the surgery center and went through the process. As soon as I arrived, they were absolutely expecting me and prepared. They brought me back right away, which was lovely. And I got dressed in the gown, these socks. They had long compression socks and like kind of a hairnet, and kind of got prepped for that surgery. And my mom and my grandma, who took me to the surgery, were there to like sit with me. They were allowed to go back there with me. And in that time of the hour and a half, I met the anesthesiologist. I met the nurse that was going to be assisting me. And in that time frame, my surgeon came in. He had me sit up straight and he drew on me where he was going to be making the cuts. So, any last minute kind of questions and tweaks I was able to ask him then. I'm not sure I had any for him, but that's kind of the process. And going into the surgery, like I said, I was pretty nervous, but in my head, I was like, stay calm. Like the more relaxed you are going into the surgery before you get put to sleep, the more your body will kind of react to that surgery in a calm way. Like you don't want to have all this anxious, stressed energy and then go under the knife. In my mind, I was like, recovery will be better if I'm smooth and, relaxed. But in my head, I was like, okay, as soon as they wheel me back to that operating room, I'm probably going to be pretty nervous. And crazily enough, so they said, okay, say bye to your mom, say bye to your grandma. And then that's the last thing I remember. So anesthesiologist came in and she knocked me right out. Apparently, they wheeled me to a different room, did the whole operation, and then took me right back. And I was woken up in the exact same spot that I remembered being in. And they were like, you're good, you're all done. And I looked down and I just couldn't believe it. I was in an ace bandage. And so that was the easiest moment ever. I don't know if you were expecting me to say that, but yeah, absolutely no complications. Surgeon said everything went great. So that was my experience with the surgery itself. And then they had me recover, like wake up basically for about 45 minutes to an hour. And at that point, I was released to go home. So, of course, you're not able to drive for 2 weeks after surgery. So I was, of course, driven home, but they wheeled me out to my car. And then I went home and then I just got to take some nice, lovely naps. So that was great. I was on a painkiller that was prescribed to me that a few days later I stopped taking and switched to Tylenol. So now I'm just taking Tylenol, honestly, only once a day. You can take it every 6 hours, but I haven't really been having any issues, which I'm happy to say. Not to say that's going to happen for everybody, but I'm pretty proud and maybe I have a high tolerance, but haven't been in much pain. And what else? So they had an appointment scheduled for me for 24 hours later so that they could remove the ACE bandage and switch me into one of those sports bras that I had purchased. Now, I'm embarrassed to admit we didn't make it to that appointment. We got almost to the appointment at the scheduled time and I fully spaced and forgot the sports bras at home. So we were just instructed over the phone. This is a little bit of a mess and hopefully won't happen for you, but we basically were able to go home and my mom had to remove the ACE bandages for me. Not recommended. She and I both almost lost our minds. We were like in my bathroom, which was maybe just a little too hot, and I was standing up in front of the mirror watching her do it, and then I was like, "Oh, I'm getting lightheaded." And then so I sat down on a bench that I have in my bathroom, and then I was like, "I am going to pass out. I have to go sit in some air conditioning." Then she started feeling lightheaded because she's seeing everything, and we both were like, "We're not medical professionals. Please go make it to your appointment to see your surgeon on the follow-up so that they can take care of this for you." Um, we eventually got all of the stuff off of me and switched me into the bra, and then I immediately took a nap, but it just could have been so much smoother had we made it to the appointment with the bra as recommended and as scheduled and planned. So that is just kind of a little bit of an embarrassing moment to admit, but very kindly, because we didn't make it to that appointment, my surgeon still had me schedule a follow-up appointment just a few days later when it worked in his schedule so that he could still check in on me and see the progress. And At that point, I had already been in the sports bra, but he took a look at everything and said, it all looks good. So come back in 2 weeks. And I had another 2 week appointment. This appointment was just yesterday. And at that appointment, all he did was cut the sutures. Basically, I had like some strings hanging out from the sides of everywhere he cut. And he cut those out. And to my understanding, those will start to dissolve, I believe, at about 12 weeks, but kind of will continue to dissolve for months after that. So at this appointment, I was also cleared to drive, so that's been exciting. And then everything else will be cleared at 6 weeks, but there is no follow up appointment for that. It's just me kind of maintaining myself. So that is something for you to expect. That was kind of the entire process. These last 2 weeks, as I mentioned, I got off of the crazy painkillers that are, prescribed, and then I've just switched to Tylenol. Pain has been extremely moderate to light, I would say. I have been doing a lot of resting. I did take a week off of work, which was required or recommended, I should say. And now I am just working from home. I just work a desk job for my full time job. So ultimately, I'm not doing a whole lot of labor. You'd have to ask in your consultation what that would look like for you, depending on your work. But it's been pretty easy. I'm able to do most tasks. The ones I'd say that are still limited for me that I need my mom's help with, who's staying with me for just another week, is laundry. I can kind of move the laundry around. I can put laundry in there, one clothing article at a time. But to get it all out of the dryer and then move it to my room, I've had her do that. The other big no no for me is like taking the trash out. To lift that much weight is not recommended. Then to carry that much weight, however many feet to the garbage bins outside, not recommended. You have to push and pull some heavy doors in the meantime. And then to lift the bin to put the trash in, not recommended. So that's been her main task. And she's also been cooking for me, which I could totally do myself. But it has been nice having her around. So I would suggest that as well. If you can have somebody help you, I think it is kind of recommended you have another adult in the house if you have kids, especially. If not, you could probably let that trash go for a while. You're not going to be making much trash if you're home by yourself, but that's just what I would recommend. Other than that, recovery is going great and I really have no complaints. So, before I get to the big reveal, which I am going to do here in a moment, I just want to ask if you have any questions of something I did not cover, if you want to ask something maybe specific to me or specific to my surgeon, or maybe you just have a question that you're like interested in for yourself, please, please feel free to reach out. I'm so happy to help you. I am all about helping women, inspiring women, and I am a girl's girl. So, any question you have, even if it's maybe a little TMI, I can probably handle, honestly. I just want to be as helpful as I can. So go ahead, please email me. I'm going to put all of the contact information again on the screen and again in the show notes. You can check there. But Average Glow Podcast is my email address. You can also find me on Instagram and TikTok. It's at Average Glow Podcast. I'm also on Threads with that as well. You can also go follow me on Pinterest, which I post a lot of fun stuff on there. And the name on that is Holly Rose _ Average Glow. So go find me on there as well. I'd love to hear from you and want to know anything you have to ask. And if I do get a lot of questions, I will either turn them into kind of some extra reels and extra TikTok content for, potential future listeners. That would be helpful for them. Or I might even turn this into a second part episode where it's just questions, Q&As, right? I would love to do that. So go ahead, shoot me your questions. I would love to hear them. So without further ado, I guess, I think it's time for the results and to show off what I've got going on under here. 2 weeks post-surgery, I am going to go switch into a sports bra that is not on the approved list, but it's one I can wear for the next 10 minutes, I would say, to record some content here. And then I'm going to have to go switch back into this big guy. So give me a moment and I will be right back. All right. So I am back. Here is the result. I know I'm wearing black, but I'm going to turn to the side here so you can see. I am also going to put maybe a before picture up on the screen here so you can see what I was working with before. I did not have this cute sports bra before. I would not have fit in this. But basically, you can see, let me move that so you can kind of see a silhouette here, that I am much smaller now in a very lovely way. I'm so happy with it. And it's pretty proportional to my body. And that is what I'm the most happy about. It's making me look a lot slimmer, a lot leaner. Now, my before picture, like you can see my ribs here, my boobs used to, I'm not even kidding, sit on top of these ribs. And these ribs, these are my ribs. These are not abs, but they kind of make me look like they are abs. And I always hated that it would be covered. Like it kind of was like, I look thin, but you cannot tell because my chest was absolutely covering all of it and breaking up my proportions. So now I am able to wear these kinds of workout sets. Not yet, actually. I'm only 2 weeks out. In 6 weeks total, I will be able to wear these kind of cute workout sets and just feel so confident and happy about it. And so that is it. If you want to see way more content about what I look like now and what I look like before, I am spamming Instagram with that kind of content. So please go find me there if you didn't already find me through there, and go check it out. Go like it, share it with your friends. I am just so happy with the results. Thank you again, Dr. Bradley Becker. Again, please go check him out if it is possible for you to travel to Arizona or if you're already living here. Could not recommend more. I am just beyond thrilled with the results. So that's the end of the episode, you guys. Thank you so much for tuning in. I hope to see you next week. All of my new viewers, I hope to put a good one out for you next week. So please stay tuned. And again, if you have any questions, please reach out to me. I so appreciate you for being here, and I will see you next week.